In this exercise, you will draw three separate logos where the graphics have been provided to you. Just choose any of the three from the collection. And I want you to do one using the merge drawing mode only. And I want you to do the second one using object drawing mode only. And then finally the third one, use the mode of your choice. I'm going to do a quick demonstration here now, so I'll import one of these logos here. And I think I'll use a file in ActionScript 3, and you should as well. Now I'm going to change the dimensions of my properties here, of my stage area. I'm going to change the height to 550, so it's going to be square, 550 by 550. And I'll just go fit in window here. And then I'll import an object or a graphic to the stage. So we'll go import, import to stage. And here are the logos to choose from. I'll choose probably the easiest one here, shell logo, and click open. And I'll just lock that down on the stage here. Alright, so now I can't move it or grab it or do anything to it. I'm just going to save this right away. Save as. And I'll call it logo 1. There we go. Now, I'll do this one in object mode. So I do want you to use your pen tool. That's the other stipulation. You have to use your pen tool for this exercise. So let's return over here to the pen tool. And once I'm on the tool, I want to confirm whether I'm in object drawing mode or merge. So it does need to be selected. And you'll see it'll say object drawing right there. The keyboard shortcut I believe is J for Jim. Now let me just zoom in on this so I can be fairly accurate and move it around with my space bar. And I'll simply draw, maybe, you know what, I'll zoom out and I'll draw the red section very quickly, and I'll start from here. Oh, of course I need to create a new layer. That layer was locked and it just told me so. In fact, while I'm at it, let me rename that layer tracer. Alright, and create a new layer. And I'll just call this layer logo 1. I may use more than one layer, I haven't decided yet. With the object drawing mode, it's not so critical because things will not merge. So I'm going to start what I perceive to be the element in the back, and then I'll do the yellow, which is on the top. So again, we'll start clicking here. And now I want to initiate a curve coming out. So I'm going to drag this handle out and then click sort of where I think the middle of that curve ends up and draw that out. And I can always come back and refine this, but that's pretty close. And you see I actually have a preview of my line. Once I finish this line, I'll show you how you can actually set that in your preferences. But for now, let me just complete this shape here. And it might need a little refinement later, but as I said, we can always come back to it. It's close though. And now I want to kill the curve aspect of the next line, so I can click once on that anchor point, which now will generate a straight line. Click here, click here, click here. I'll actually, well, let me undo that. I got ahead of myself there. I'll click it, and then click and drag and pull a short handle out. Let me see if I can achieve this with just the 2 points. I can click here. I can drag here. And it will only affect the bottom side of that line, if you will. And I can use my command key on the Mac or my control key on the PC to refine this line. And I think I'm pretty good there now, at least for the sake of this demo. Now if I go to my selection tool and I do select it, it is an object. It's still just a line though, and I would need to fill it with the color. And I'll do that now, and then I'll eliminate this temporary stroke, if you will. Now I can go in and sample that graphic. So I'll sample the red. And boom, since my object was already selected, it adopted that color immediately. Now it's a little bit hard to see, obviously. If you're on the latest version, at this point anyway, it's the 0.2 version, 2015, you can set your transparency by shift clicking on the visibility icon in your layers. So if I shift click, I can make it translucent. But I understand some of you are only working on the 0.1, in which case you'll simply have to hide that, and I guess you'll have to put it on a second layer. So I'll do it that method just for those that don't have the 0.2 version, but this aspect of having transparency on a layer is quite nice. The other way I could have approached this, of course, was drawing the object in the front and then drawing the back object and send it to the back. There's many ways to achieve the end result here, but let me just not double click, but just click new layer. I'll call it logo 2. And I will save my file, Control S, and I'll draw the yellow part. So I'll go back to my pen tool. Again, I will sample that color yellow. There we go. So when I go to do the fill, it'll be there for me. Back to the pen tool, making sure it's still in object drawing mode. And I probably will zoom up a bit here to get accuracy. And I'll start at this bottom corner. And I'm going to go quick here. I don't want to take all your time, but you can see when I get to the end point, I can click and drag. And just to adjust this, I'm on the Mac, I'll hold my Command key down. On the PC it would be the Control key. And that's actually pretty good. Let me just click that to convert to a straight line. And carry on here. Now if I want to move, if it's out of screen, I hold my space bar down, I drag around. And at this point, I will click and drag this line out. Click and drag here. Now I did say that I would show you how to change your preferences. So I'm going to escape this now and I'll come back to it. You can actually hit your escape key to get out of that pen drawing mode. Now I am on the Mac, but just find your preferences on the PC. I believe it's under the file menu. If not, it might be under the help. But in the Mac it's under the animate menu item. And if I go to drawing, if you look here, there's a thing called pen tool, show pen tool preview. I've got it on. By default it's off. If I didn't want to see that preview, in other words, where the line's going to go when I move my cursor around, I would keep it off. I am going to keep it on, however, but I just wanted to show you where you can make that setting change. And it's in the preferences under the drawing category under pen tool. Okay, so let's just get back to our drawing. Now I will I'll use my sub selection tool. I'll select that line, which lets me see the anchor points. Then I'll go back to my pen tool, and to continue on an incomplete line, if you will, or a non-closed path, means the same thing. I simply click on the line, or rather on the anchor point, to initiate it again. Now I'm going to click it one more time to convert to a straight line. But that first click was to initiate the drawing once again, continuing on the same path. And then I'll just move the spacebar down here. Now I'm going to do this rough and quick, if you will, just to get through it here. Okay, and so on and so forth. All right, I'm going to go even faster now, which means it won't be as accurate. But I just want to cut to the chase on what you'll need to do next. Okay, and one more little branch here, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. And then down here, spacebar to move up. Mostly straight lines left. Kill that line and close the path. There we go. Actually, I think somehow I missed here. Let me just connect here again. And there we go. Okay, so let me go back to my selection tool. And I'll just go with my bucket and I'll fill that. And then I'll double click. Actually, let me go back here. Yes, I do believe I need to double click to eliminate the stroke. So I'll double click it, which gets us into this drawing object mode, and then double click the stroke and delete it, and then come back. And I'll turn the visibility on now for the red part, and I'll turn it off for the tracer just so you can see that's actually what I have. So I actually do need to eliminate the stroke as well on the red part. So I double clicked it to get into drawing object mode, and double click that stroke to highlight the whole thing. Sometimes a single click will do it, but most of the time you'll need to double click. Delete that, come back out, and there is the actual thing that I've drawn. It looks pretty good at this angle. Obviously I went pretty fast on it, but I'm going to actually drop it onto that same layer so that it does end up on the same layer. I'll turn on my tracer temporarily, and we'll go up to logo 2. With my selection tool, I'll select the yellow part. Now there's one other thing which was kind of annoying and I didn't mention it, but the actual line that I was drawing was similar to the color behind it. You can see how it's hard to see. It's orange. These colors are dictated through this section right here. If I was to right click here, I could go down to properties, which you can't see, it's cut out of the screen, but just imagine you went to properties and simply change what's called outline color. And in this case, if I was to pick, I'll just say black. Click OK. Now you can see it's much easier to distinguish. So this is where you would change the line default color that indicates which layer it's actually on. Alright, so the next step though is I want to take it from logo layer 2 to logo 1 layer. So let me just deselect here just to start over. You highlight the object. What I want to do is I want to cut it and then paste it in the exact same location on logo layer 1. So I'll do edit cut, and I'll go highlight the layer I want to target it to, and here's the magic trick, if you will. Edit, paste in place. Paste in place will put it exactly where it came from with respect to its position on the screen. Paste in place, and there we go. Let me just zoom out here, and now if I hide the other two layers, you'll see that these two elements are stacked on top of each other on the same layer. And because it's an object, if I was to grab this and move it, it doesn't bite a hole out of the other object. I'm simply going to undo that to reposition it. I'm just going to turn these layers back on here. Now there is another method that I'm going to share with you. If you really want to draw on the one layer, it can be done. Let me just go in here to logo layer 1, and I'll just use my pen tool, and I'll draw a shape sort of in this center area, if you will. I'll just make it very simple, and we'll close that shape. Now I'm just going to zoom up for this next step and draw yet another object that ultimately would be on top of this diamond shape, if you will, because it does remember the stacking order, so the order that I've drawn them in. The latest thing is of course on the top, and I think it's closed now. There we go. No, it's not. Let me zoom right up here. Close that properly. All right. I'm just going to fit this in my window and go back to my selection tool. All right, so imagine that you drew everything just in outlines, no fills. You go up and highlight the line, and then you can simply assign a fill through your fill color. You could do it up here or down here. And let's say I wanted that to be green. There we go. Then I select the other line, and I'll do the same thing, and I'll go to my colors, my fill color, and I'll make it another color. So if you want to just stick to outlines for the whole process and then fill them with colors, that also works. And then of course I would go in here, double click it, getting inside the drawing object, double click the stroke, delete it, come back out, click on scene 1, and do the exact same thing on that other shape, unless of course I wanted to retain the stroke. So yet another kind of approach using the pen tool, working in object mode. So I'm just going to delete these elements now. Now we just saw a couple of ways of using the pen tool in the object drawing mode to create logos with more than one color or more than one object stacked on top of another. There are a number of ways I'm sure you can think of, but I'd like you to do one of your logos today using your pen tool, set to object drawing mode, please.